What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Gazova, and this is living in Seattle, living and moving to Seattle, Washington. Something like that. I'm excited to be here. Hope you're excited to be here. We are going to talk about Redmond, the pros and the cons of living in Redmond, Washington. And I have notes that are hopefully going to keep me on track so that I can get you guys the details and information that you are looking for. If you're thinking about making a move out here to Seattle, Washington, the metro area, including Redmond, Kirkland, Bellevue, Seattle, and the surrounding areas, this is the channel for you. We're going to talk about the nitty-gritty details, all the details and information that you need to know about making that decision, coming out here, taking a look, and seeing if this is a good fit for your lifestyle, what you hope to accomplish. So subscribe, like, notification bell, all that fun stuff. And if you're serious about making a move, you just want to have a conversation, just reach out, text, phone call, whatever you got to do to connect with this. If you don't reach out, we can't really help you. I hope you get a kick out of these videos, but it's so much more fun to jump on the phone and kind of see what you guys have got going on. We're helping people make the move every day, and we're happy to jump on the phone with you just to chat, see what makes sense, and see if we can put these pieces together for you. We're helping all kinds of folks do it, so why not you? Reach out. So let's get into today's video. Is going to be the pros and cons of living in Redmond, Washington. Now, if you've seen some of the videos that we've done in the past, we talked briefly a little bit about Redmond in some of the videos. It is a suburb of Seattle. It is home to Microsoft, and it seems that most of the people out there being suburb, it has this draw for that Microsoft contingent who maybe are raising a family, they want to be close to work, they don't want to make that commute from Seattle. And so Redmond kind of speaks their language, right? It fits their lifestyle, has that suburban feel, that big lot, and all those kind of design and appeal of a suburban area versus an urban area. So we're gonna get down to some nitty gritty here. And if you see me looking down, it's just me checking out my notes because I want to make sure I put together a couple pages worth of stuff here, and I want to be sure to get you some details that really make sense to you. So we're just gonna start it off. Redmond really, they have a couple of things that they're known for. One of them, they're the bicycle capital of the world. They have some of the best bicycle lanes. They have velodrome. They have all this stuff that's geared towards cyclists. The city has decided to make it really easy and really convenient for cyclists to get around. So if you're that kind of person, maybe Redmond's the right spot for you so that you can get out quickly and go for a bike ride. If you're, hey, you want to live Redmond adjacent, you want to live in Kirkland, still pretty great. Bellevue, it's okay for bikes, right? But easy access to Bellevue. Even people from Seattle will take the Birk Gilman trail that runs from Ballard all the way around through and ends up dropping you off there in Redmond. And there's a lot of breweries if you're thirsty along the way, right? So you have all the Ballard breweries to kick off your bicycle trip. Do that, and then you've got some more in Kenmore that you can stop at, Bothell area as you make your way out to Redmond. So bicycle capital of the world. The other second thing is that it's known as the tech capital. It has Microsoft and Nintendo out there. Also Space Lab, did I write that down right? Space Lab Medical. I must have just been taking notes. I've never even heard of that company. So if you're working in space and you need a lab, they're the company for you, Space Lab Medical. AT&T is out there as well. So definitely has a lot of tech companies that are out there. That's kind of what it's known for, the Microsoft being the biggest one that made their home out there with their big Redmond campus. Has been undergoing some renovations. I believe I just read in the paper that Microsoft has actually increased their starting salary to keep up with wages and inflation. A few months back, Amazon had done that as well. So it's a game they play where they trade the talent pool, right? So definitely something to think about if you're in the area and that's what you're looking for. You ride a bike, you work at Microsoft, boom, Redmond. Let's get into some of the pros. So one of the things about Redmond, and I think this has largely to do with the tech industry and working in an industry, is that the median age out there is fairly young, about 34 years old. It's a very diverse neighborhood. If you go to their, I think it's oneredmond.com is kind of their Chamber of Commerce website. A lot of good details and information there. 46% of residents speak a language other than English. So maybe they have ESL, English as their second language, and came to the area with their primary language, but almost half the people living in Redmond speak a second language. So that's pretty cool. The crime rate is lower than the national average. It's known as a very safe community. It's not just lower than, the crime rate is not just lower than average, it's 83% lower than the national average. So with those numbers, I mean, it's a squeaky clean, safe area. 78% lower crime rate than just Washington State. So again, really great area in that regard. Redmond has some of the best school districts in our area. Lake Washington School District is one of the highest rated schools in the state. And Redmond also has a Tesla STEM high school ranked amongst the best in the state. So some pretty significant pros. You can see just off that alone, one of the reasons that it's such a popular area to move to and that people are interested in being there, because really when it comes down to finding a great home in a great neighborhood, you may not have kids, but a good school system impacts the value of your home, right? So it's always, I always try to suggest to folks to try to find a modest home in a nice neighborhood, because that nice neighborhood continues to bring up your values as well. So a lot of folks talk about how, if they work at Microsoft, it's easy to get to. We talked about the bicycles and able to commute via bicycle. They do also have a great farmers market in Redmond Town Center. There are just a ton of things in that regard that people truly love about the area. And if we're going to jump in and talk about some cons of the area, well, with all of that, that comes positive, you have to kind of look at that scale. Maybe that suburban life isn't really what you're looking for, and what you're more interested in is restaurants and places to go on the weekend and bars. And obviously there's some great stuff out in Redmond, but for a lot of people who are young at heart, they feel like they want to be somewhere that has a little bit more of an urban center like Seattle. So we will see, those folks live in Seattle instead. So some of the cons that we've come up that we've come up with is that nightlife. There just isn't a lot of nightlife out there. There just isn't a lot of bars and restaurants like Seattle to choose from. Even in Bellevue's smaller than Seattle. Even though Bellevue has a lot of great options, you're still at a distance from those, right? You're in a different city. It might be a half-hour drive. Where if you live in town, in Belltown, downtown, even Ballard or Capitol Hill, you can walk to a lot of those amenities and be able to get into bars, restaurants, shops, breweries, whatever your choice is, right there, and have that all at your fingertips, where Redmond is going to be far more car-dependent area to live. But because of that, you're going to get, a lot bigger house and, your garage and yard and all that stuff too, right? So another thing about choosing to go out, let's say that you are only going to go out like once a month or every couple of months and make that trek over to Seattle. A lot of folks actually do this. They look at how often they go out, what is their actual lifestyle look like, and then make that choice based off of that. It's kind of like buying a car. You buy a big jacked up 4-wheel drive truck. Well, how often do you actually go into the mountains? Is this a statement piece because your personality dictates that, hey, you want to have this big old truck and that's you love it and you love everything about it? Or are you actually using it for what it's built for, getting out on trail and doing that sort of thing? People sometimes look at their choice to where to live in the same way. How often do you really go to the Mopop? How often do you really go to the Seattle Art Museum? How often do you really go out for drinks and that sort of thing? If you're living in Redmond and you're making the trek over to Seattle every single night to hang out with friends, or every single weekend, you're going to grow tired of that probably pretty quickly, because you've got to find parking. you've got to kind of watch your timelines and your behavior out there. You got to keep things in check because you got to drive home too, right? So there's a lot of that to consider if your lifestyle is such that you want to have that nightlife and you want to get out and do stuff. If you're driving into Bellevue 3 times a week to go out with friends, right? You've got to think about what that looks like. Some people throw on a podcast, throw on something, and they make a go of it. It's no problem at all. Other people want that right at their disposal, make it really easy and really convenient. So that's kind of the toss-up between what's great about Redmond versus what people find difficult about living there. I've talked to a lot of folks who, they initially moved out here to work for one of those tech companies, Microsoft or Nintendo. They moved to Redmond because they wanted to be close to work, but they found that their social life wasn't in Redmond, and it made it really difficult to get out and go look go out to these other places to meet friends who were living in Bellevue or Seattle. And then what we've kind of found, is that folks that maybe are thinking about a family or have a family that have that, they're going to soccer practice or baseball practice or that sort of thing, that Redmond suits their lifestyle that way a lot better because it is that suburban type of living situation there. So one of the things that have come up time and again is that living in Redmond, those neighbors, those people pretty much keep to themselves. They have their own commitments and things happening there, whether or not meeting their neighbors. And so it's the same suggestion on whether you choose to live in Seattle, Bellevue, or Redmond. I always make this suggestion to folks that I work with, just because Seattle has this thing called the Seattle freeze, is that if you want to meet your neighbors, if you're social, let's say you're from Philadelphia and it's a very different vibe in Philadelphia than it is over here, but you want to know everybody and you want to meet your neighbors and have that sense of community, it's going to be on you more often than not to make that connection with your neighbors. So in movies and stuff, people always they knew you move into the neighborhood and somebody brings you over muffins and cookies and welcomes you to the neighborhood. I always tell all my folks, just do that yourself. Make muffins and cookies or whatever for your neighbors. And then because we live in an era where people are very conscious of gluten and nut allergies and milks and all that stuff, you got to make a little post-it note with what's in the thing, so because you want to make sure that they're well-to-do to eat it. So, but do that so that you can go out and meet your neighbors, whether you choose Seattle, Bellevue, or Redmond, or Kirkland, or wherever you choose to live. That way you can start to build that sense of community. What we found is that kind of in Redmond, a lot of times people stick to themselves, start to break out of your shell until you start meeting kids at the PTA meeting and meeting people on the soccer field, and then start to build those relationships. And it's funny that I've heard that complaint from people that live out in Redmond, but I've also heard that complaint that people that buy in condo buildings and that sort of thing. So really, when it comes down to it, the pros and cons of Redmond, you might look at those cons and think they're pros, right? You might look at those pros and think they're cons, depending on what kind of lifestyle you want to live. So it is a little bit of a slower pace. It is a little bit more suburban. There are less restaurants and bars to choose from. You are more car dependent, right? You're going to get, more likely to get a home with a yard. There are some townhouse developments and condo developments. You're going to be closer to work if you're at Microsoft or Nintendo. I think even SpaceX is out that way. But what you're going to sacrifice in that is that nightlife, that ease of access, that walkability, and that sort of thing. So I really hope that those kind of pros and cons help you dial in a little bit better what you think you might like from that area. If you're curious to know more, reach out. We'd love to connect with you. We're helping people make that move all the time. So we want to do a really good job for you, make it really convenient and easy. We do phone calls, video calls. Just shoot us a text, give us a call, whatever you want to do to reach out to us so we can help you make that move. And we can go over, if you race bicycles, Redmond's dialed in. They got the velodrome. They got some great stuff. I mean, It really is a lifestyle choice, what you're gonna find the most useful, and how you wanna live, how you wanna live your day to day. So I'm happy to connect with you. Stay tuned for more videos about Redmond, Bellevue, Kirkland, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, talk to you.